abbreviated version of it. Joining us now from Washington, Wolf.
Thank you, Joey. And joining us is Senator Fred Thompson, Republican of Tennessee. You were at the Supreme Court on Friday listening to the 90 minutes of arguments made before the 9 justices. You've been following what's going on these past 2 days in this hearing in Tallahassee. Is it fair to assume that the longer this goes, the longer the deliberation goes before the circuit court in Leon County, the less likely there will be another manual recount?
I don't know if that's fair or not. All I know is that the judge probably will rule sometime this week. I think the Supreme Court will probably rule sometime this week. And if the Vice President loses either one of those cases, either one of those rulings, I think it will probably be over for him.
But if he wins, let's say he wins both of them, hypothetically, is there enough time to do the kind of manual recount in Miami-Dade and Broward, excuse me, in Palm Beach County that he's looking for?
I don't think so. Not under the rules as we have known them. Now, if they construe the cutoff date to be later than what we've assumed, perhaps. But that's one of the
cutoff date being December 12th.
Right.
Excuse me.
That's one of the dates. I mean, that's one of the problems that the Supreme Court of Florida got into when they extended the timeline. When they did that, they really compressed the time for a contest. It was apparent from the very beginning they weren't really going to have time to do a contest in the normal sense of the word. So everything gets compressed. You have something that would normally take a considerable period of time, taking 2 days, and it's just a it's no way to elect a president.
Yeah, you know, given the uphill struggle that Vice President Gore now faces, the Republican vice presidential candidate Dick Cheney was on Meet the Press earlier today offering some advice to Al Gore. Listen to what Dick Cheney said.
I do think that it's time for him to concede. So far, he's chosen not to do that, to pursue other avenues, and clearly that's his prerogative. But I think long term, I think history would regard him in a better light if he were to bring this to the close in the very near future.
Pretty strong words from Dick Cheney. Time for him to concede.
Yeah, well, I think he's right, but I also think it's academic. I mean, he's not going to. There are going to be these 2 decisions come down. I think that probably he'll be required to when that happens, and it will be time. The world is a very dangerous place. We're having a bit of an economic downturn now. We need to get on about our business. This transition phase is very important to the success of any new president. It's proven to have been so in times past. So it's time we got on with it, and certainly I hope that this week will bring that about.
As you know, Warren Christopher, the former Secretary of State, who is the point person for Al Gore in this whole Florida recount effort, he was on Late Edition earlier today, and I spoke to him about the advice that Dick Cheney offered Al Gore. His response was perhaps predictable, but listen to what Christopher said.
In my own experience in these matters, Wolf, when in a contest like this, I've always tried to open myself to the possibility that the other side might win. And I think it would be very healthy if Secretary Cheney and the Governor Bush team would at least admit of that possibility. It would make for a better long-term relationship, I think.
When the Secretary talks about in a case like this, there has never been a case like this. We're dealing with the presidency. We're dealing with the future of the nation. Clearly, the Vice President has its rights, and goodness knows he's taken full advantage of them. But this thing must come to an end within a reasonable time period now. And with these court decisions coming down, I think we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And for the good of the country, I think that that's where we ought to get by the end of this week.
And when do you think, it's speculative, you were at the Supreme Court on Friday, when will the High Court, the highest court in the land, do you think come out with its opinion, whatever its opinion is?
Nobody knows that, but all of the experts are saying first part of this week, and I have no reason to argue with that. They know what's at stake. On the other hand, what's going on in Tallahassee is very important too. If the judge down there issues a ruling tonight or first thing in the morning, that might have some impact on the Supreme Court. If the judge decides not to personally or supervise a hand recount of 9,000 ballots, which is I think what he's going to decide not to do, that possibly could cause the Supreme Court to take a bit of a different view and punt the ball over to Congress or step back from it somewhat. I don't know, but I do believe we've got two important court decisions coming down this week, and I think that that should and will resolve the matter.
Senator Fred Thompson, thank you so much for joining us. And just this note to our viewers, we are keeping an eye on what's going on in the Leon County Circuit Court. They've taken a recess, awaiting final arguments from all sides. In this case, we will, of course, go back to Leon County and this hearing, this courtroom, as soon as that begins. But when we come back, we'll hear the Democratic response from Senator Carl Levin of Michigan, a strong ally of Al Gore. Stay with us.
Every year, Fred plays the winners of the Legends of Sport and Fred sweepstakes.
Freddie, baby!
Some years are worse than others.
Hey, guess who I'm playing golf with today?
You, too, could be Fred's worst nightmare. Win a trip for 3 to Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida to play the world-famous Sawgrass Course with Fred Hickman. It's the Legends of Sport and Fred sweepstakes, sponsored by Black & Decker. Enter online at cnnsi.com or watch for our ad in USA Today.
This year, give me a break.
Tonight on a CNN special report, comprehensive coverage on Al Gore's contest in court. A CNN special report tonight, 8 Eastern on CNN.
It's a hot Friday night at 28 Burton Way. In apartment 6D, Dale is grooving on a live concert. At the same time in 6E, Jennifer's catching an action adventure. And in 5D, the Pritchards eye a serious drama, while Jamie looks at a family show. Now, here's the twist. They're all watching HBO in the same building at the very same time. So what's the deal? HBO the works. They all ordered HBO and got 6 different channels for one low price. Pretty simple, really.
The reliability and ride of Camry. The roomier, more refined Avalon. The high-tech thrill of Celica. You'll find it all at Gale Toyota. Gale Toyota works harder to give you greater satisfaction and better service time after time. And Gale Toyota is right nearby on Palumba Drive in Enfield. If it's gotta be great, it's gotta be Gale Toyota.
Why you decide to pre-plan your funeral isn't important. It's that you decide. That's what's important. Surprisingly, it wasn't depressing. It actually brought some things into focus. Some see it as something to avoid. I saw it as a responsibility.
Hi, this is Super Ralph at Skidco Hardware and Pet Supply. Come on down for great prices and selection on all your pet food and supplies.
Hola, I'm watching you. Feliz Navidad and season's greetings from all of us at Skidco Pet Supply.
So come on down to Skidco Hardware and Pet Supply. You won't find better pricing or selection anywhere. Shop only at Skidco Hardware and Pet Supply.
Hasta la vista, amigos.
Bush officials weigh in tonight, 7 Eastern on CNN.
The Maglite flashlight, American-made, to be brighter, tougher, more dependable. The Maglite is a work of art that works. A Maglite flashlight is the brilliant gift idea for any occasion.
You're looking at a live picture of the courtroom in Leon County, the circuit court where Judge Sanders Sauls has called a recess. Once this recess ends, the lawyers for Al Gore and George W. Bush and other parties will have their opportunity to make their final arguments in this hearing that's been going on this entire weekend. Supposed to conclude yesterday, but it's gone all day today. Once it resumes, we, of course, will bring it to you live. But right now, let's go to Senator Carl Levin, Democrat of Michigan. He joins us from our bureau in Detroit. Senator Levin, you just heard Senator Thompson say it was a good idea what Dick Cheney, the advice he offered Al Gore earlier today on Meet the Press, that perhaps it's time for him to concede.
I thought it was totally inappropriate, right in the middle of a legal challenge provided for by law in Florida, while they're in court, both sides arguing for Mr. Cheney to suggest that the vice president concede. This legal challenge, which is being debated in court, and which we'll hear more of later on tonight, is provided for by Florida law. That is the mechanism which is used in order to bring about a resolution. And right during that challenge, it seems to me it was highly inappropriate for Cheney to say that the vice president should concede. It's just not constructive, and I don't think that that kind of a comment has any place, frankly, in the middle of a court challenge.
The attorney for George W. Bush, Theodore Olson, was on Late Edition earlier today. He said if the time is running out, it's the fault of Al Gore and his lawyers for delaying the process as the legislature of Florida had envisaged. Listen to what Ted Olson said earlier today.
The deadlines have been shifted. We've gone 3 weeks rather than 1 week into the protest phase of this election. Now we have the contest phase of this election, which has been arbitrarily shortened because of the positions that the Gore administration or the Gore campaign took. And we've got a very distorted process because we did not stick to the neutral principles and carefully developed timetables that existed before the election.
What about that, Senator Levin? It's all Al Gore's fault.
The vice president is doing exactly what Governor Bush would do, which is to go to court. Governor Bush went to the Supreme Court. He had a right to do it. Governor Bush went to federal court. He had a right to do it. Al Gore has a right to go to court. It's appropriate that these challenges be made. It's amazing to me that we could have Mr. Olson argue in the same breath that it was arbitrary for the Supreme Court of Florida to shorten the time of the contest, and at the same time say that the vice president should give up the contest and concede. That to me is utterly amazing. They're trying to have it exactly both ways. You can't argue that, no, don't extend the time for certification as the vice president wanted, because then you're going to shorten the time for this contest, and then say, oh, cut the contest short and concede. I've never heard such really inconsistent arguments made with such a straight face.
You know, Senator Mitch McConnell was also on our program earlier today, and he echoed the same theme. He went a little bit further, though, saying that what Al Gore is doing by contesting this certified election in Florida, he was, in effect, in his words, becoming the political Tanya Harding. I guess that means that he was anxious to win at any price, no matter the damage it costs to the country.
Well, the name calling, it seems to me, is out of place. We have two institutions here which we have to rely on: the Supreme Court of the United States, the Supreme Court of Florida. They're going to make the decisions. I hope that Governor Bush is committed to abide by any Supreme Court decision in Florida which goes against him, and not try to end run it and go to the Florida legislature. I haven't heard him say that he will not try to end run the Supreme Court of Florida. I think the partisan comments from any side are not credible. The American public has confidence, the most confidence, in two institutions: the Supreme Court in Florida and the Supreme Court in the United States. There should be a commitment to abide by those decisions. Don't end run it. This thing will be resolved, I believe, in a timely way, and hopefully within a week. But I think the harsh partisan rhetoric is not what the American people want to hear. They want to hear that we have institutions which are working, that all votes will be counted. I think the American public is clear. They want all valid votes counted, and I hope the court reaches that decision. But if the Florida Supreme Court decides not to look at the valid votes, which a manual recount could discern, then it seems to me we must accept that opinion of the Florida Supreme Court, those of us who support the vice president. But I hope that Governor Bush's people will commit themselves to accept the Florida Supreme Court opinion as well. I haven't heard that come from Governor Bush.
Well, you're not hearing it also from some of his supporters, including the leadership of the Florida legislature. In fact, the speaker, the Republican speaker of the Florida House, Tom Feeney, was on ABC earlier today. I want you to listen to what he said, because a lot of people say that what the Florida legislature does could be the insurance policy that George W. Bush has in his pocket if necessary. Listen to this.
Absent an action by the United States Supreme Court that resolves this entire matter and makes sure we don't have any contests or controversies that would prevent Florida from participating in the Electoral College, we will, in my view, have a special session in time to preserve the election.